Welcome to a Delco Nerd Network podcast, Beyond County Lines edition. This is a new podcast where we are going to be discussing with other people outside of my area, not just in my basement. So I'm kind of expanding to talk to some of my internet friends through the power of the internet. And today we're going to be talking about a decade of Dark Souls with Greg Wells, aka Grebard.
That's me. Hello. Welcome.
Hey, what's up, man? Thank you for doing this with me. This is going to be fun.
And just so people know how far beyond county lines we are, I'm in eastern New Mexico. So
we're literally
Philly
across
to eastern,
the nation.
That's across, and America's fucking huge too. So practically across a continent, you know.
I'm curious how far that drive would be.
Well, I've got Google up, and I can
well,
find that
through
out.
The power of the internet, we can find out.
Philadelphia to Clovis, New Mexico.
I'm going to say 23 hours.
26.
Oh, close.
26 hours.
Close.
Literally can't do it in a day unless you probably speed like crazy and
yeah.
You know.
So this podcast kind of like gives me the opportunity to do topics that I don't really have a lot of people of my friends or like people around me to do topics of, and Dark Souls is like one of those topics that my co-host Chris Trio doesn't really play Dark Souls like we do. And I don't really have any Dark Souls experts around, so you're definitely one of those people. Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, like, I know people...
I figured a bunch of gamers, you know, Dark Souls would just kind of, I don't know.
Right.
It's different.
But like, there's a different caliber. Like, yeah. I definitely feel like you know your shit, and that's why you're here. That's why I'm talking about this.
I've played a lot of Dark Souls. I've never done any like challenge runs or anything.
Here's a question I think I know the answer to. Have you played Demon Souls?
No.
It's not in this decade,
never.
So obviously like we have to mention Demon Souls as kind of the what's the word? Originator of this genre. Even though it's like doesn't really get that credit, I feel like a lot of people like don't.
Oh yeah, that's where it started, man.
Souls.
That's the first Souls game, no doubt. Dark Souls is where they got big, but man, like they established pretty much everything in Demon Souls. The tough gameplay, how you build your character. I mean, the way they tell the story, I think, was pretty similar too.
Right. Here, hold on. There we go. So yeah, Demon Souls came out in 2009, so it just kind of misses that like decade of when all these Souls games come out. But Dark Souls obviously is the first, the first game that kind of created this zeitgeist, this comparing everything to Dark Souls, this weird thing we've begun to do with this genre, which I think is kind of weird, even though it makes a lot of sense that like the difficulty of the Souls games kind of is just like a thing of itself.
I think they were just so good that because I definitely felt that like post Dark Souls depression when I finished it and then tried to go play other, like I think I went from Dark Souls and tried to play like Fable or something, and I was just like, oh, I hate it. It feels terrible. It's not Dark Souls.
Really?
And so yeah, because I think those games took 3D like third person combat to another level. Like they just had like a satisfying tightness to them and weight to them. The other games just, and even Souls-like games just don't really quite capture, it seems.
Right. And I think as we go, I think that tightness and that gameplay core gets just better and better and better and better.
Yeah.
Did you play Dark Souls at launch? Like, did you get it right when it came out?
Not at all, actually. I was a very late comer to Dark Souls. My first experience watching the game was, I think, 2012 over at a friend's house. It was, I was spending a shitload of time working on my band at the time's album, like doing a lot of editing work. And so I'd go to my friend's house in their back room, and my friend was like an expert. He had like 20 game files and had been through the game every which way. But my other friend had never played it before, and he was trying to get him through the Ornstein and Smo boss fight.
Oh my God.
And he was just, I don't think I've ever seen that guy that upset since then. Like he left the room tilted and just, I didn't think much of it at the time, but I was like, that game looks kind of cool. And then I think it was 2014 when I finally played it myself.
Oh wow! Holy shit.
Yeah. It took a long time.
I'm trying to think. It came out, I think like the fall of 2011, if I remember correctly. Let me see. I just have years. Let me see if I can find a date. Yeah, just got a date. Oh no, I just have a year. Anyway, I got it a few months after it came out for Christmas that year. So like I didn't get it at launch, but once I got into it and I was playing it, I think it's the first time in a while that I felt like I really didn't understand a game going into it.
Yeah, man.
Because like as a gamer, you play games and you get it immediately. You don't really like first person shooters. Okay, like there's a tutorial, sure. But like you can jump in and like figure the game out in probably like a minute and a half. Like,
you know what you're doing.
Easy.
Yeah.
Right.
And depending on the difficulty, you can probably still just destroy everything.
But Dark Souls was just like it was so foreign, so different, and I was just so bad. Fucking bad.
I remember being blown away when I got to the Undead Burg. Like, why are these basic grunt-ass enemies killing me? Like, that's not how video games work. I'm supposed to be tearing this shit up, and then, like, I don't know.
My first playthrough of Dark Souls, as soon as I got Havel's armor, that's all I wore.
Even with the fat rolling, because you had to have been fat rolling.
Well, I was kind of in the mindset of, like, oh, it's the best armor, I should be using it. But, like, that is not a thing that matters in Dark Souls to an extent. I mean, like, armor does affect certain things, but, like, in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't make a difference.
If you can't wield it, it's not, you got to be able to move.
Right, like, and then here's me in, like, Four Kings, like, fat roll.
Although, Four Kings may be the time to just use it anyway, because those guys are assholes, and you got to kill them quick. So if you can just get up in their face and take the hits, I mean, maybe that's
that was definitely a boss that I got stuck on. Obviously, Ornstein and Smo for a little while, because, like, who doesn't get stuck on that fight?
Oh, yeah, you have to.
I'm trying to think of other bosses that I really got stuck on. I think Gwyn didn't take me too long.
No.
I definitely, like, sucked. Like, I definitely was not, like, under-leveled, but, like, I still didn't know what I was doing by the end of the game. Mm-hmm. So I just was bad.
He's when I don't remember where I really ranked him as far as, like, difficulty or favorite bosses, but when I first played, but when I went back to it, after playing a lot of Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3 and all that, he was one of the only ones that gave me a lot of trouble because he's more aggressive.
Right, he's really
he jumps
aggressive.
On you and he hits fast and hard. You don't really get, like, big windows, but you can parry him, which is fucking cool for the final boss in the game to be parryable, I think.
I don't think I comprehended parrying until Dark Souls 3, or maybe some point in 2 when I was, like, playing it a lot.
I gave up on it in 2 and 3, man. I can only do it in the first one, like, a little bit, and I'm not that great at it.
And I use shields a lot. Like, what do you remember what you rolled through Dark Souls 1 with? Like, what was your main set and stuff?
Oh, yeah. So I, after dying to it about 10 times, with my friends watching and laughing at me, I got the Black Knight sword off the very first Black Knight in the game. And that carried me because for that time of the game, it's really good. It's a really, really good sword.
Yeah.
And I saved up to get a great shield as soon as I could, and I fucking turtled behind that thing. My first playthrough, absolutely. Like, and I think I ended up with the Elite Knight set, so pretty standard
right.
Dark Souls fare, but
I had to have been something similar. Like, I knew I wore Havel's a lot. The lightning spear from Sen's Fortress? Is that where you get it from? A mimic chest? OP.
That's right.
So OP.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah.
My one friend
is good against so many bosses too.
I would go into I was a junior or a sophomore. I'm gonna say junior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it was 2011 to 2012. And I'd come in and talk to my one friend about it, and he'd be like, oh, he'd be a little farther ahead of me, and he was like, oh, this is where you go next. And we'd, like, feed each other information, and he told me that the lightning spear was, like, OP as hell, and to get it and, like, use it, so I did.
It's good. It's good to give you just a straight-up lightning spear. You don't have to upgrade it or anything. It's just, no, here you go. This one's already... Because normally you'd have to get, like... Oh, how do you upgrade weapons in Dark Souls 1? It's been so long.
It's
only
the
have
same
to
thing.
level up a normal spear and then... turn it into
oh, right. Yeah, but I mean, it's still like the similar, like, you're plus 10ing it, and then you gotta, revert it into the next level.
I would use the lightning spear a lot as, like, if I didn't have a character with a lightning-based weapon and I just needed one for some reason. Because some bosses, like, especially, like, dragon-type bosses, they can really get torn up by lightning in those games. Helps a
And
lot.
I know because I talk about achievements all the time. I never 100% at that game.
Really, the first one.
Yep, never.
What were you missing?
All the refinement stuff.
Oh, okay.
Getting all the
Gotcha.
I feel like when I was going through it, I just didn't understand it, and the resources available for like achievement hunting were kind of lacking back in the day. There were only like a few sites that did like extensive guides, or maybe I just wasn't looking in the right places.
I don't know. Yeah.
But I have like a few different resources I will go to for like achievement guides and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know how to get all these items, and I don't think I was very efficient at laying it out, because once you got past certain bosses, or like if you needed a soul from a certain boss, because I know you needed a lot of those.
Right. Yeah. And you
it
couldn't
was
get
just-
all those in one playthrough either. You had to pick
Oh
and choose.
yeah. So, and like, I think there's like, I didn't even know the one covenant with what's his name? Not the one serpent, Cramp. Cramp?
There's Framped, and
Framped.
then what's the name of the other one?
Ah, shit. Here, hold on.
I can't think of his name right now either.
If I framped Dark Souls, there should be like
Koth. Cave.
Cave.
Yeah.
Koth. Cave.
Dark
Yeah.
Stalker. I think it's Dark Stalker Koth. I think I heard
his
them say
covenant.
Koth in the game. Yeah.
His covenant, I was like, I have no idea this existed until I
Yeah.
looked at the
It's
achievement.
so out of the way. You have to like take a really odd route through the game to even get that covenant.
There are a ton of things that are out of way though, like Siegmeyer, right? Yeah. Siegmeyer's quest line is insane. Like you really have to go out of your way to do it.
It's really good. And it lasts the whole damn game too. I love it.
Solaire's is like kind of tough.
Solaire is just kind of like a little guide for you, I think. He's got a little bit of story there at the end, but he's just like
and there's
there
a few
to
different
teach you
endings
about-
for that. I know he can like not fight you and fight you. Like I'm pretty sure he does different things based on certain actions, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, you have to go really out of your way to save Solaire. The default thing that happens to him is he kind of loses it, starts to go hollow, and he puts a sunlight maggot on his head because that's him, what he thinks is finding his son, and then he attacks you. But if you there's one covenant. It's the Spider Girls covenant. I forget what it's called. Hang on. Covenant. Dark Souls, Spider.
I know it's Quelaag, but is it called like Quelaag?
The Chaos Servant.
Yeah.
You can level that covenant up with just humanity. And I think if you give her 50 humanity, she opens up a door, and then by going through that door, you can kill the sunlight maggots early and save Solaire. He ends the game pretty sad, but
so
you can fight Gwen with him.
Reminded me of me exploiting the game and duplicating boss souls to level up.
Oh,
so
nice.
If you got the dragon head and you used a soul at the same time, you had to do like a certain like button combination. You know how when you attack, like the fire comes out of your head?
Yeah.
So like if you were to attack and use an item at the same time, it would just keep using the item.
Oh, okay.
So that is how I like got really good. And
that reminds me of like printing Pokemon levels with rare candy. Back in the day, there was a big exploit. You could just keep churning them out if you wanted, but yeah, I guess if you want to get all the weapons, you got to do something.
Right. Yeah, and I never finished it.
Yeah. You think you'll ever go back?
I don't know. I really don't have an interest in playing the remaster.
I mean, you're more of a Dark Souls 3 Bloodborne guy anyway. Those are a lot faster.
It's not even that. Maybe it is, and I'm just not realizing it. I don't feel like I just don't feel like going back to it. I don't know. Maybe it is because it's slow, or I mean, not like
I just know that
slow.
My sister started with Bloodborne. She got through that, and then she tried to go play Dark Souls right after, and she just couldn't get into it. She liked Dark Souls 3 though. Dark Souls 3 is like a Dark Souls Bloodborne hybrid kind of. So
I mean, it's a lot more of a refined game too. Yeah. I think that Dark Souls 1 is very base in what it is. Like it's very simplistic, and like it can be a turn off in a way, which maybe is why I don't want to go back.
I think that's part of that may be part of why I like it too. It just feels very simple. It doesn't feel as like it's not like an indie game, but it doesn't feel as low or as high budget. It's like they were kind of just working with what they had and didn't really quite have the the polish of the later titles. I mean, I like that stuff too, all the like bombastic music of Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 and the better graphics, but Dark
And
Souls just has kind of a video gaminess to it.
since Dark Souls does have DLC, Artorias of the Abyss, I've never played that.
Never. Okay, you've got to
No,
play that.
I didn't get it.
Oh boy, that's. I mean, any complaints people have had about the second half of Dark Souls not being as good, if you have that DLC, I mean, you can alleviate that because just the boss fights alone in that expansion.
I know you fight Manus and Artorias. Is that it?
Manus, Artorias, big ass dragon. Forget his name. He's pretty cool. It's a really good
dragon,
fight.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah. And there's a guardian thing, like a wyvern, a lightning wyvern thing you fight when you first show up. It's like the first thing you do, and he's kind of a bastard. But the Artorias fight is really great, and the Manus fight I think was my first time through the whole game. The one that really kicked my ass. I got stuck on that for hours, maybe days on end, and felt really great when I finished it.
Koro in chat is saying Calamite.
Calamite, the Black Dragon Calamite. I thought he was really hard until I think it may have been when I streamed it. I tried to cut off all the tails in the game because you can cut off like if anything has a tail, you can cut it off and use it as a weapon.
Get a weapon. Yeah, that was actually a really cool thing that I feel like as we got less of, which is kind of sucky. It's kind of like environmental design within the game.
Well, because you could do it on everything that had a tail, even if it was a massive fucking dragon, you could cut it off.
Yeah.
Use that thing.
That's cool. I'm trying to think. I feel like in Dark Souls 3 there is a boss that you can do that with, but it's like not every boss that has a tail. I could be very wrong. I've just like for some reason I'm thinking about it.
Dark Souls 3 cut off tail. Can you get weapons from cut of boss tails? Reddit thread. No.
I was wrong.
Answer no. You cannot do it. Lame.
And that's something that like I'm curious as to why they took that out. Like it was kind of a cool aesthetic that, you know, lended to like, oh, if you fight this boss and kill him, like you can't get that weapon until New Game Plus.
Right, yeah. I would always want to do it like on the gargoyles, obviously.
Yeah.
Gotta cut the gargoyle tail, and you can get the dragon that blocks your path in Undeadburg. If you get his, they used to call it the flying dragon sword. That was like a community nickname for it. I forget what the Drake sword. Yeah. That thing doesn't scale, so you don't want to level it. But if you get that thing, that'll carry you for a long ass time. It's really good.
So, as we talked about Dark Souls a lot, but before we go to Dark Souls 2, I forgot I wanted to do so. At the beginning of the stream, I was thinking about it. See, it's rough. This is the first time doing this format of podcast, and I'm forgetting shit because I've never done this before. But I wanted to talk about how we actually met because that's probably an interesting fact.
Yeah, this friendship is based in Dark Souls.
It is, which is funny. Yeah,
that was all you saw me play for like a long time.
Yeah, so I met you pretty much when 2Blue42 hosted you on Twitch, and that was pretty much how this all started. It's not very nitty gritty or detailed, but
I was leveling up in Majula, I remember, and all of a sudden, and that was I probably was extremely anxious at that moment because I played Dark Souls on Twitch for nobody. Maybe a friend would pop in occasionally just to fuck with me, but I played that game just by myself. I got no viewers. Dark Souls 2, I kind of got my shit together a little bit, and I got a few people to jump in, like, that were kind of following me. That was a lot of fun. But then Bree shows up with, like, 15, 20 people. I'm just like, oh, shit. I gotta do good. Humans. And that was, like, that was the best raid ever. I met so many people from that raid. And
this is actually a great transition because I mentioned Dark Souls 2. We're about to go to Dark Souls 2. See, this shit works out.
Perfect. There you go. See, it's better that you mentioned it when you did, actually. I
don't like Dark Souls 2. I will be the first to say that I think Dark Souls 2 is really a bad game.
Really? Really bad game?
It's slow.
Okay.
The enemy design is all humanoids, and it just like really takes a lot of this like aesthetic, the Dark Souls aesthetic out of the game. Like all you do is fight like big burly fucking knights the whole time.
It's very medieval.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool for like, you know, a few levels. I don't mind those enemies, but like there's no like monsters. Like,
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
sitting here on the spot, I really can't even think about like one monster besides maybe the frog dudes that are in every game. Like, I'm trying to think.
Like bosses. There's some like the Rotten is a big monster boss.
True.
There's a
He's
lot of
still
stuff
kind of
down
humanoid
there.
though. He has
He's
armor.
still kind of humanoid, yeah. You do fight an ancient dragon, one of the most annoying fights in the entire series. That
Oh,
one
that
that's
that
way
fight
up
is
there.
dumb.
Oh,
Yeah, it is dumb.
it's like
I
they didn't intend you to fight him, but of course we're gonna fight him, and it
Dark
takes
Soul
half an hour.
Dark Souls 2, I got all the achievements in, and I think I only had to kill him once, and I don't think I killed him my first playthrough. I forget. Royal Rats, but Koro said in chat, but like
Yeah,
they're still like base enemies. Like, are you gonna count a rat as like a monster? Like, it's a fucking rat.
yeah. Oh, there's the big like panther bosses or whatever it is in the snow DLC.
Yeah, like there's a lot of animals. Like Nishandra is still like kind of humanoid, even though she's a
Hmm.
monster. Same, Aldia is like a person in like a
Yeah.
blob form.
Aldi is an interesting character though, man.
Yes.
He is odd.
So did
He's
you
very
play the
cool.
original Dark Souls 2? Because I only played Scholar of the First Sin.
Never. I just played Scholar of the First Sin.
Yeah, I
I
didn't.
had
So
I had a couple of false starts with that game. I think I tried to play it. It was my next Souls game to play after Dark Souls, and I was just like, this doesn't feel good. You can't get past that first 30 minutes sometimes where it just doesn't feel like the game you're used to.
yeah, so
But then
Dark Souls 2 came out in 2014. I don't think I played it
okay,
until 2016.
okay, yeah, I think I probably first tried it in late 14 or 15, and then I think I fully got around to it in 16, maybe early 17.
Yeah, I like really just don't like that game. I think every other Dark Souls game, every other Bloodborne, and even maybe Sekiro are just a lot better than Dark Souls 2.
I
I'm pretty hard on it.
I definitely wouldn't put Sekiro over it. Sekiro's definitely at the bottom for me, but I really like Dark Souls 2. I get the complaints, and it definitely feels like I can see why it's kind of the black sheep game. It doesn't feel the same. It's got weird stats, but I don't know. I guess I just feel like it has a nice individuality to it. It feels kind of like a fever dream version of Dark Souls almost. Like they just threw so much in there, so many different areas, and it's not as
What,
cohesive and it doesn't work so
what do
well.
you
And
mean by a fever dream? Can you explain that?
like it just feels different. It's like Dark Souls, but kind of more of like a high fantasy version of it almost. And
I see what you mean by
the
that.
the way they just kind of didn't like they followed the first game, I guess technically, but they just went and explored all sorts of different lore ideas and different
Right,
characters.
and it really like doesn't really connect to like Lordran and Gwyn. Like it sort of does. Like if you're Vati Vidya, you can sit there and make those connections and like really
Hmm.
look deeper into it. I like the story, but yeah, it's like it's very disconnected. Like Majula doesn't seem to be near
Yeah.
Lordran or really have anything exactly to do with it. Like,
It
I know
kept
one
the
of the
same.
theories, like with the giants, like that might have something to do with Lordran, like the continent being like across the sea and like
Yeah, yeah. It's like they didn't really care to. I know people, going into it wanted to hear more about the different lands and characters and things they'd heard about in Dark Souls, but I think they went for the option of no, let's just move to a different era, tell a different story, but the concepts of the world will still be the same. And
right.
then they'll kind of expand on that through the whole story of the king and the throne of want.
And
I think it's interesting.
and you mentioned the DLC, and I don't think the DLC is any good. I think it's more, and that's it. It's
It
just
is more.
It
That's
is
for
just
sure.
more.
Koro said, I like to bitch about it as much as anyone, but when I did my final playthrough of Dark Souls 2 on stream to get all the trophies, I actually had a lot of fun. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. Like, it was long.
It is
Playing through
long.
all the
It
way
is a
Dark
very long game.
It took me about 70 hours to get through my entire DLC and full game run, and I was way up there in level. But I think the DLC had some of the best boss fights for sure. Like, I think my favorite in the game is Sir Alan. He's a knight, another knight,
Yeah.
but
No, the Sir Alan fight is good. Again, another human.
another human. Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole fire DLC felt like a
Oh,
big Zelda. I felt like a big Zelda dungeon to me.
I feel
The
like
way,
all of them are like that. They're very thematic in like not I wanted to say season, but weather.
like an elemental kind of way. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a fire DLC, a snow DLC, a Poison DLC.
It's
Poison
a little
DLC got on my nerves.
It's a little just like on the nose. Like it's just like why?
I guess I just got in a rhythm. Like you've played 45, 50, 60 hours of a game and you're just in it, and when I played the DLC, that was the first time I'd been through it when I streamed it. So I guess it was just more Souls and it felt good to be playing more Souls. But
right, I can understand that.
I remember thinking by the end of the game, like, all right, I am really sick of walking behind humanoids and backstabbing them and watching that long backstab animation because they took away the backstab. Like Dark Souls 1 had that clean just through the back. Dark Souls 2, your character has to like knock them out and cut them to the ground and then like do all this extra shit. It's like, no, okay, but I think it stood on its own well for what it is. Like you've got maybe Dark Souls 2 shouldn't be thought of as a Souls game, but as the best Souls like. But it's just it's still from Software and it says Souls, so you kind of have to think of it as the real thing. But
right.
It wasn't Miyazaki. It was a different. They let a different person.
I mean, it's very clear that there's a different mind behind it. I'm not sure how different the team was. Maybe it's not. Maybe you might know more than me about that.
I just know that Hidetaka Miyazaki wasn't the director. That's the only Soulsbourne game that he wasn't in charge of completely.
So I wonder why.
I don't know. I think it was because he was working on Bloodborne.
I was like, Bloodborne. Yeah.
I think it was Bloodborne. Actually, I tried to play Dark Souls 2. That's a good segue. Yeah, I tried to play Dark Souls 2 and couldn't the first time. Like I bought Scholar of the First Sin and didn't like it. But when I loaded up Bloodborne, even though that game feels so different from Dark Souls, I felt like it gave me the same feeling right away. Like it had that tightness to it, like that legitimacy.
Something about Bloodborne is just absolutely perfect.
Yeah, man, it's a masterpiece.
I really don't know what it is. It's the Yharnam and the Eldritch theme of it, or how it's so different from Dark Souls and how it does very Souls-like things, but really like puts it on its head, but still makes it interesting.
It's really like well committed to its themes.
Right.
Like you can maybe get tired of the darkness, but like that game really puts you in Yharnam, puts you in the nightmare.
Yeah, and like they're still telling the story the same way. You're reading item descriptions and you listen to characters laugh at you at the end of every sentence. Mm-hmm. And the characters aren't really communicating, but you're learning through the bosses and the world and the contextual lore. And like we haven't really talked about that, but that is one thing I really love about the Souls series is this like different way of storytelling. And I think why Sekiro isn't a good game because it's very base narrative in the sense of like they're telling the story like you tell any other story, and it kind of takes it out for me.
You don't get as much from like the item descriptions and people kind of spell things out for you more in Sekiro, I feel like. Oh yeah like and like this might say something like Vati did not do a ton of videos on it because it's just obvious the story is really said to you and there's not much like lore or world to kind of look into, whereas Dark Souls 2, 3, and 1 all have that kind of thing, and Bloodborne. Yeah. Bloodborne, like more than any of the Souls games, I mean, I didn't pay a lot of attention to the Dark Souls story when I was playing it, but then finding out about it later through different videos, like through Vadi, was really cool. It was a really good world they'd set up. But Bloodborne was the only one that while I was playing it, I was sitting there like, oh, I've got to figure out what's going on. And I, of course, finished it. No one finishes Bloodborne and knows what just happened. Really got to...
What ending did you get when you first beat it?
I have only ever gotten the ending where you ascend to being a great one.
Oh, yeah, we've been over this.
Yeah. That's why I don't have the Platinum Trophy.
Yeah. I that's the first ending I did, and I looked it up. I'm not going to be like, I fucking figured it out myself.
Yeah, I just found the umbilical cords and I think I asked a buddy like, what do I do with these? And he was like, just use those.
Fucking eat them.
So fucking eat the fucking umbilical cords, dude. Okay. Only Bloodborne can make you is like the only game to make you eager to eat an umbilical cord.
Yeah,
I've ever played.
That's a weird sentence.
It's a weird sentence. Yeah.
Yeah, Bloodborne is just fucking like stupendous, and it's got limited weapons, but like I still feel like once you like, it's really about like finding your weapon, and like I was using I started with the whip, and then I moved to the Kirk hammer, and then I got the
Ludwig's Holy Blade.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
I used
that's a
Ludwig's
solid
Holy
weapon.
Blade, and then I used the Moonlight Great Sword.
Oh yeah.
I was big into Evelyn and the pistols. I didn't really use blunderbusses, but like I really stuck to like my weapons. I mean, I like swords too, so I'm kind of like particular to swords.
I think my first run I did the axe at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
the hunter's axe. I kind of went for a heavier build, not really realizing what kind of game I was getting into. I was like, oh, I'll be a
Right.
strength guy, but
Nah,
you're gonna be fat. You're gonna be fast no matter what, pretty much.
Right.
And then I think the Kirk hammer, that one that turns into the massive
Yeah.
the massive mallet.
I
thing.
love the animation when he does when he puts the sword, he's like,
Yeah, it's so badass.
and like rips it off his back. Yeah, it's really cool.
You know,
But
they
like trick weapons are such a interesting
They're
mechanic
great.
that like,
They're great.
who the hell thought of that one? Give them a raise.
It's why I think you lose a little bit of your character customization and maybe some of your replayability in Bloodborne from the Dark
Yeah.
Souls series. You can't make, just all sorts of different kinds of characters, but they make up for it with every weapon is super interesting to use. And there's such a wide range of like abilities like every single weapon has. Like you don't
Did
just
you
have
use
your
a lot of
R1
the,
and your R2, like the switch attacks and all that shit. It's great.
Did you use a lot of the magic when going through? I've never been a magic guy in Dark Souls. Like I know you've done some magic builds, but like that is not usually the way I play going through. Did you use any of that stuff? Oh wait, your internet cut out. Hold on. I'll wait. Grab just has this weird face. Koro, if you're not screenshotting this, you're doing a disservice.
Oh shit.
Okay, we're back.
Yeah, my internet's really not agreeing with me today.
So what was the last thing I said and that you began to?
I heard you talk about how my face looked weird.
Oh,
and then that was after.
I was saying,
Before
did you use any of the like the magic items, the Eldritch powers?
I think I made one arcane guy, I had one arcane playthrough just because I wanted to use that stuff. But typically, no, I would just use my bullets for bullets.
Right.
So, because I parried a lot,
I dude, for the life of me in the beginning, I didn't understand how to parry. Like I just I didn't get it. But then it clicks. Like one you're like, oh fuck, now I get it. Now I'm gonna fuck everyone up.
I think Bloodborne's got the cleanest parrying of the series. Like it just feels the most doable. Like you have your window, and then if you can instantly pop that gun off, and if you get anywhere in there, you're fine. Like
yeah.
I felt like I could actually do it for the first time.
And then you eviscerate the dude with some like cool visceral attack.
Yeah, they really just put a lot into. They put a nice twist on the gameplay that really made losing some of the customization forgivable. Because visceral attacks were so fucking fun. Like, trick weapons were so great. Like, the fast way you dodged around. Oh, and the recovery. That's a fucking great mechanic.
Right.
If you get hit, you can... Yeah.
Which promotes aggressiveness, and it promotes you to get into their face and like, okay, like, they're going to hit you, you got to hit back. You got to try to counter that and get your health back.
Yeah.
Yeah. They really invented this whole... Like, when Dark Souls 2 is, like, the slowest game, and then... Bloodborne, I would say, is the fastest. I don't think Dark Souls 3 is probably as fast as Bloodborne.
Not quite.
Bloodborne is just like high speed, hyper active, like aggressiveness.
It almost feels arcadey sometimes. Like if you get really into if you've been playing it for a long time and you get deep in the Chalice dungeons, another thing that's unique to Bloodborne.
Right, I was going to bring up Chalice dungeons. I had it on the back of my head.
You start fighting a bunch of really tough shit and just carving through it with a strong character, and it feels great. It just feels like there's blood flying everywhere. I'm healing myself. Nothing can touch me. I'm dodging around.
I mean,
awesome.
we brought up the Platinum, and we just brought up Chalice dungeons. And for once, a Soulsbourne game, like trophies were actually like doable. All you have to do is 3 playthroughs and go through the Chalice dungeons. There's no grinds. The covenants in those games for the trophies. I think you lagged out again, but I'm gonna keep talking. For the trophies,
I still see myself talking to you just fine.
Oh really?
I can hear you and everything, but yeah, my stream keeps lagging out. Maybe I'll just shut it down. Maybe it's causing strain, but I have plenty of internet. I don't know what's going on.
You're good. Oh, it's fine. No worries. Yeah. So the the grinds that the covenants and getting those spells created in those games for those trophies are terrible. Since Koro is in chat and he knows and he got them all in Dark Souls 2, you have to grind through the Belfry Covenant like a motherfucker. Like a motherfucker to get some stuff. Like a spell, I think.
I remember watching Koro do some of that, and he just...
And Bloodborne, there's none of that.
Much.
And you go through like the Chalice dungeons, which is like essentially like a randomizer, essentially. Like dungeon randomizer.
So there's a randomizer version of it. There's certain reagents you can put in to get randomized dungeons. That's why they're doable forever. That's why people still are down in the Chalice dungeons today finding new shit. But the path to Queen Yarnum, which you have to do for the achievement, I think is a set. I think those are set to give you like an increasing challenge all the way through. It's funny that I've done that, but I still haven't platinumed the game because that's the hardest part of the platinum is getting through the Chalice dungeons, I think.
I guess. It's not that hard, though. It just takes a little time. And, like, sometimes you're like, fuck, can I just, like, summon a friend in here and do this? Yeah. I summoned a lot of people in those
There's
fights.
parts where the difficulty can ramp up pretty bad when you get down there. Yeah. Some of them. Maybe they didn't get... some of those bosses probably didn't get as fleshed out or balanced out as the main game bosses, but they're really good. And it adds tons of unique bosses to the game, which is cool.
And then the Old Hunters DLC, which I think is like stupendous.
Probably, yeah.
I don't have much to say on it, but like I think it's really good, and it expands like the story of Maria and the Old Hunters, and you just kind of see more of the game. But also the hardest boss is in that DLC.
Oh, which one is the hardest for you?
Orphan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course.
That's probably a good.
That boss.
A good choice.
I mean, did you beat him solo?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
I did eventually. I kind of made myself get through everything solo, but
yeah, I was not about that way of life.
I've done it on at least New Game Plus. I don't know about Plus, but that was the fight that broke my sister. She got all the way through the game without really asking for help.
It's a hard fucking fight.
Spent days on it. Not this previous Christmas, but the one before. She spent multiple days just doing attempts at Orphan of Cause, and eventually she was like, "All right, I can't do this. I'm summoning help. I'm gonna beat this game."
Right. I summoned help, and I was just like, I don't even care.
Can we talk for a second just about the general multiplayer of the series and how good it is? Because the way it weaves into those are single player games, but the way they weave the multiplayer in, I think, is genius. And I don't think I saw anything quite like that before Dark Souls.
I think Death Stranding kind of brings that level of camaraderie into the game that isn't like, I mean, definitely Dark Souls is a little more like, obviously, like, okay, you have a player next to you and he's fighting with you and helping you kill the boss. But in Death Stranding, like, you're seeing what players have left behind. Not notes, not like literal notes like in Dark Souls, or like sometimes they're memey.
Well, they can leave you objects you can use and stuff like that, don't they?
Yeah, so bridges, ladders, climbing ropes, they can leave all types of stuff, but also signs. But like, it's not like, you know how sometimes like Dark Souls has like really memey messages? Yeah, like in your like, you know,
and you're always wondering if someone's trying to troll you or not.
Right. There's no Death Stranding, like, really the point of it is to not troll, is really to help people out. Like, you can't really troll in Death Stranding, which is cool, but like it's all about this like sense of like connection in that. Yeah. But I think it really parallels Dark Souls, and like, oh, like, you know, you might find items because somebody leaves something behind, and it's like, oh, hit this wall. There's an illusory wall there, or, you know, go up, and then maybe there's a ladder, and like there's an item up there that you didn't know was gonna be up there, and then you can get help fighting bosses, and like, yeah, maybe the game is too hard for you. There's sort of an option to kind of help you get through it if you want to use it.
I love that they added the ability to cooperate and get through the game that way, as opposed to adding easy difficulties.
One thing I love about Dark Souls 3 is they add like single player co-op fights that are kind of story relevant. I really like how they add that to the game.
Like, which ones are you talking about?
I know they do it in Dark Souls 2, but like people's
single
quest
player
lines.
What's his name? Not Siegmeyer, but the Siegmeyer clone in Dark Souls 3. Siegward.
Yeah, Siegward, he comes to help you. The sunless girl. comes to help you in a few fights, and you
That's
go
right.
you go help her with stuff. I really
Yeah,
like
those are
how
cool.
they integrated this like single player character quest line into people helping you out. Like Dark Souls 2, there's just like random NPCs that just are there.
Oh
to
yeah,
help
yeah.
you.
You summon like pretty much everyone you summon that game is just
Like
like, who the
one of
fuck
them
are you?
is like Mad Martha or whatever, and she has like a cleaver and like just like a random ass character. But in
I think
Dark
I
Souls
remember us.
3, they give you context for it.
I think I remember us joking about this in when I was going through Dark Souls 2. It's just like, okay, just put an adjective on like a plain English name, and you've got like like angry John. Summon angry John
Yeah,
to come.
yeah.
Okay, who the fuck? Who the fuck is
Do
that?
they have summons like that in Bloodborne? I'm trying to think.
They're all, I think, more lore relevant. They're not quite as random like that, but yeah, there are. You can summon
Yeah,
like
there are.
certain
Yeah.
old hunters, but it's not
Yes.
as much of a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Oh right. Yeah, the old Hunter Bell. Yeah.
Yeah,
What am I?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So
You
I
can still
forgot
do
about
it.
that.
It's cool how you can devote your multiplayer activity in these games to helping people or hurting people. Like you can
Yeah.
be if you're playing online, you're open to people coming in and being a force for good or a force for evil in your game, and I think that's cool.
Do you like the invasion mechanic? Because like I definitely was not a person who was into Dark. I don't really like Dark Souls PvP at all. It's
I
not
think
something I'm good at.
I think it's great, but I think it's great that you can turn like I've played most of my Souls offline, honestly, just because
Well,
I
like
just
off.
want to.
Really, you turned like you didn't have messages or anything?
Yeah, for the most part, I just wanted to get through it without too much help, and I didn't want to be interrupted. And I
I
think that's
really think that takes away a component of the game that
it.
like I
Definitely
feel
does.
like in Death Stranding you can turn off online and like you just feel alone because like you
Yeah.
don't see anyone else's stuff. If you're like once you get into the area and you connect it to the network, the chiral network, like that's when you see other people's stuff. But if you're offline, you don't see anything. So you relying on people in Death Stranding is a part of the mechanic of the game. Literally, like it's built into like like people will help you out, like and like you don't need to worry. Like you're gonna like somebody's gonna leave something behind that's gonna aid you. But like
Right,
imagine
yeah.
not having that. It's kind of like takes away a mechanic of the game. Not that that's like super bad, but like is it designed that way? Like, I would say Dark Souls is it like it kind of lets you get away with it, but I feel like as a player, you're missing out on something that I'm getting.
I think it's I think the games are designed to stand well on their own without it. Like and they have things like scripted invasions too, or scripted like maybe not scripted co-op, but there's certain co-op elements that work with the story. Like say if you save Solaire in Dark Souls 1, you can use him to fight Gwyn at the end, and
Yeah.
that works thematically because he's kind of your companion the whole game. But the only time I really felt like it was a necessary part of the game was again in Dark Souls 2, the weird one. There's the we used to call it Horsefuck Valley. I forget what it's actually called.
that is the I'm
That
pretty sure that's the
horrible-
name. It's called
Yeah.
Horsefuck Valley.
they give you like 4 NPCs to summon in that
Yeah.
part. So I think it's heavily implied by the developer like you should really get help right here. If you're not playing online,
You're
at least
fucked.
get somebody in here to help you. And then that boss fight where they have 2 of those fucking panthers come at you. That shit is clearly not designed to be done by one player, although I'm sure there's some crazy people that do it.
Right. Trying to think of some other Bloodborne things I wanted to bring up before we moved on from it, because it is such a fucking. It's so peak Souls. It really is.
What has always amazed me about Bloodborne is the way they swerved everybody with it. Like everyone knows now that it's a cosmic horror game and there's all sorts of cool Lovecraftian stuff or whatever, but I think pretty much everyone else thought, oh, this is a game where you hunt werewolves. Okay, it's kind of Victorian, whatever, you hunt werewolves. Yeah, okay, big deal. This is kind of
Right.
cool. And then just you're playing a game and then shit just starts going wrong. Like
Right, the insight.
it just
mechanic.
fucks with
How
you
could-
a little
how do-
bit.
How do we miss that? Yeah, like the insight mechanic is so fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is all about like contextualizing things and kind of like bringing this like that cosmic entity to the front
Yeah.
of the game, but like you don't really understand it like in the beginning, but like as you're fighting bosses, you're getting more insight and you're understanding it in a
Yeah.
way. Like it's like that's not like literally how the mechanic works. You know, you're not like literally understanding it, but like
Mhm.
your understanding is kind of like within you progressing through the game, and like you're seeing more things because you're getting farther.
It's cool how it's such a story like integrated mechanic. Like it has certain effects on the gameplay, but most of them are bad actually, I think. Like I think if you have high insight, then things that give you frenzy, like the brain, what's it called?
Ooh, lanterns, winter
Winter
lanterns.
lanterns, yeah, those will
Yeah,
just fuck you up immediately if you've got high
right.
insight.
Yeah.
I remember there was just certain moments in the game where it started to click for me, and they create that just insatiable curiosity where it's like, okay, I've got to know what's going on. I've got to know what the whole thing with this game is. I remember one of those moments for me was when I first saw it was before I got to Bergenworth. And Bergenworth is like kind of where things start to really kick off. That's where you fight Rom and all that. But on the way to Bergenworth, seeing the blue guys, the blue alien looking guys,
Yeah. The
like
they're what are they called?
they're like I forget what they're called, but they're
Celestial
basically
emissaries.
I,
That's
that's
the
the name of the
boss.
boss.
But I
Yeah,
think that's what they are.
something. Yeah, they're basically.
Uh,
I think the game
keep
basically
going.
treats them as like failed experiments.
Yes. Yeah.
Living
What's her
failures
face?
is living failures is the name of the boss fight.
Yusefka? Is that her name?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's the one who creates those.
The false Yusefka, actually.
Right. True. It is.
That's a very
see.
subtle difference.
During this fight, celestial they're called celestial mobs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seeing that, and then you start picking up certain items that just really seem to point at. Like I remember being in where was it? I think Hemwick, where all the witches are, that kind of side area.
Yes. Yeah.
Hemwick Charnel Lane, yeah. There's a part of that level where you go by this big lake and you pick up, I think, the lake rune. And it says something really vague, but it talks about how bodies of water are a bulwark against sleep and an augur of the eldritch truth. And you're like, what the fuck is that? I'm just out here trying to kill some beasts
Werewolves.
and witches and stuff. And
Yeah.
and then it says at the end of it, it says something like, overcome this hindrance and claim what is yours. And I was just like, oh shit, this
I
game,
think
there's
that
something
moment
here.
for me is Yargle when you get taken there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The chanting, and you're just like,
So
what
fucking
the
scary.
fuck just
Yeah.
happened?
Oh,
Where
yeah.
am I?
And you get fucking black bagged.
Yeah.
Golly, what a stressful thing for the game to do. Like you're struggling to get through it and make progress, and then suddenly you're just somewhere else and it's scary, and there's this church girl back there crying about how she doesn't want anything bad to happen to her, and there's it's a really
Yeah.
fucking scary game. Like I
Yeah.
don't think it's a horror game, but it's totally a horror
I
game.
would say it's a horror game.
I mean,
Yeah, not. I guess
Maybe-
thinking about it, you don't, but like it totally is.
it's like the purpose of Bloodborne isn't to frighten you, but it's definitely fucking scary.
That's kind of like I remember when Gears of War first came out, and they classified the genre as like military horror because like it's kind of scary. Like Gears of War, like you're not just fighting like other people, you're fighting like fucking monsters, and it's like the game is supposed to be like kind of spooky, a little like thrillery ish.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Bloodborne kind of falls into that category as well, where it's like it's one genre, but like it has this like horror element to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Lovecraft as hell, and that's always been considered horror. So
Right.
it definitely
Very
fits right in.
weird, mind-bending kind of horror too. Not
Oh, yeah.
like just like like killers are on the loose. It's like very creepy.
I feel like Bloodborne is probably where. Well, no, I guess Vadi definitely got big with Dark Souls, but Bloodborne was just perfect for him because that game needed to be put together for people. And once they saw the whole picture, it was like, oh my god, we've just played a masterpiece.
Right.
What the hell? Like, and we had no idea what was going on, but we pressed forward anyway, and then we got turned into a worm at the end. What a fucking bizarre ending.
Yeah.
When you get picked up by the doll. And you're this fucking slug. You're these things you've been killing, but you ascended.
Right. You ascend.
That's fucking insane.
So that Bloodborne came out in 2015. I think.
Yeah, they started firing out games quickly for a while there.
Yeah. So Dark Souls 3 comes up in 2016 and then finishes. Well, the DLC finishes in 2017. But I think Dark Souls 3 for me was like this. Oh god, it wraps everything up so fucking well.
Yeah, you like what they did with it. They did give the series a nice closure, I think.
Oh my god. Oh my, like the way it like it just kind of like comes in on itself, and it's just like very like high level about like the references like towards Gwyn and how like not even about the cycle, but just like every like it's just like oh like all this shit from Dark Souls 1 is like coming back.
Mhm.
It like matters.
Yeah, and yeah, they do a good job of legitimizing. I mean, Dark Souls is a weird world to follow, but they really bring home the whole themes of time being convoluted and like the way the world changes. The world literally geographically changes over the course of, I guess, the different eras of Dark Souls, because it all takes place kind of in the same area. It's all near the kiln of the first flame,
Right.
but first you have Lordran, and then you have Drangleic, and then Lothric. Like literally different countries come and go, and different kingdoms, and
Yeah.
the
And you're kind
layout
of
of the
seeing
actual land.
yeah, you're seeing the effects of this like the kindling of the fire and like what that age has done and like kind of this like cycle. And I think you see it really well with the DLC. Oh God, not Ashes of Ariandel. What's
Oh
the other
no,
one?
the
Oh,
Ring,
no.
Ring City.
Ring City with Slave Knight Gale and how Gale is essentially you.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
You
essentially
basically
you.
That's a great final boss for the series.
Oh my
Yourself.
God. Yeah, and like like
Reflecting on basically what you are. You're just this bloodthirsty fucking thing out here hunting for souls,
right,
insisting
and
on having
like
all of them.
progressing and like becoming like all powerful and usurping Gwyn essentially.
Yeah.
But like he does it. He usurps Gwyn and like turns the world into this like fucking wasteland.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, like his
That-
fight is
that arena.
so cool.
That may be the coolest arena in the whole series, unless I'm not thinking of something else.
No,
But
I think you're right.
and you can use all of it, can't you? Like you can run
Yeah,
around that
it's
entire.
huge. Yeah.
It's,
I
that
don't
shit is
think
like-
once you get to Gale, you don't get like blocked off. You can like go back and like out and around and you
That
don't
shit
have
is
to
like the
fight like
size.
Wolfthorns are.
That shit is like the size of Hyrule Field, man. From the old, like it's huge and it's all sand and ruins.
I
It's cool.
really fighting the Soul of Cinder. So I didn't know a lot about Dark Souls 3 when I played it, and I played it probably last year, 2018, 2019, I'll say. So like very recently. And fighting the Soul of Cinder for the first time was like this moment of like I'm fighting him. He's kind of like using different like player abilities, and I noticed that like instantly. I'm like, yo, he's switching between like stances. Like he's going from like rogue to like mage,
Yeah.
and he's using a sword. And then when he turns into Gwyn and the Gwyn's theme kicks in,
Yeah.
I had this moment of like, oh my God, it's full circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like
it's
and
really
the Soul
cool.
of Cinder, I feel like is supposed to be Oscar, or maybe you from Dark Souls 1.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, whoever kindles the flame, like I feel like it's supposed to be like an amalgamation of everyone who's ever kindled the flame. So like there's Gwyn's in there, you're in there, your Dark Souls 2 character's in there,
And-
like any character you could have played is
Yeah,
in
so like any play style which represents everyone is in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
there. Yeah. And then
And
the way Gwyn's music just kind of subtly comes in. Yeah, that second half, that's great.
And he puts the
That's great.
sword down and it's like, oh, and it ignites
Yeah.
and it's just like, oh, it's just such a cool moment. And I think that really is what like sticks with me with Dark Souls 3. And I got the best ending, which was it's the most difficult one where you what's it called?
You become the
Usurpation of the usurpation of the flame.
Usurpation of the flame.
Yeah, when
Something like
dude,
that, yeah.
when you like get up and the moon is like the soul, and it like oh my God, like what is this so cool?
And they I remember we were debating on when I streamed it whether I should kill the Soul of Cinder before doing the DLC, and you were like, "Dude, kill him first."
Yes, yeah.
And then because I didn't know they would refer to you as like the Lord of Hollows all through the DLC.
Who refers to as that like specifically?
I think it's
It's a
Sister
female
Frida.
character.
Sister
Yes.
Frida.
Yeah, she does. And Ashes.
Great fight, by the way.
Ashes of Ariandel. Yeah,
Great DLC, even though it was short.
yeah.
I think
Very
it's really
cool.
good.
Like all of Dark Souls 3, it's just like the I think the highest. I want to say refination. Is that a word?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Most refined.
yeah,
Basically.
yeah, it's like the most refined of like the Dark Souls combat, but like adding some Bloodborne, but like still being Souls. Like
Hmm.
it's not like trying to be Bloodborne, but it's trying to evolve the gameplay.
Hmm.
It's a lot faster than Dark Souls 2,
You can
and
tell that if they wanted to make the series faster and tighter over the years.
right, right.
Oh yeah, Cora,
Um,
there are hidden fights in Slave Knight Gale's arena.
yeah, the one NPC
And
in
then
the
there's
cathedral.
there's a random ass ring knight just kind of off in the corner. He's got a dual great sword. That's pretty cool. But mostly it's a lot of space. I like that about it. I like when games
Yeah,
just give you space sometimes.
not even just that fight though. Once you get like past the ghost archers and you get down to like where is it a judge? Who's the big dude?
Yeah, yeah, the
Yeah, and
Covenant
like
fight.
that whole plane, and you fight the Dragon Slayer armor at the end of that big tar pit kind of
Yeah,
thing.
where he's just like a random mob, but it's the
Yeah,
fucking Dragon Slayer armor. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well, like, dude,
cool.
the Ornstein is referenced so much in Dark Souls, and he's such a huge character because,
Hmm.
like, I mean, the Nameless King kind of kicks into there too because, like, he like
There's an
Ornstein kind of like
Ornstein.
usurps the Nameless King and kind of like becomes Gwyn's right hand instead of his own son,
Yeah.
and he just gets
Oh,
forgotten.
what do you think about the Nameless King? People, I think, wanted that for years to be Solaire or something, and then Dark Souls 3 comes out, and no, it's just this god, basically.
Wait,
Like this.
what do you mean people wanted it to be Solaire?
Okay, so the long running. Oh yeah, Judicator Arc is the name of that judge fight. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
one. That's where you can fight people in that covenant,
yeah.
which is pretty cool. No, what were we talking about? What was that sidetracked
You were
me?
talking about the Nameless King being Solaire.
Okay, yeah. The long running theory for the longest time was that because you learn about how the Nameless King was cast out in the first Dark Souls, like he did something to piss off Gwyn, and so he was kind of excommunicated or whatever.
Right.
And so people were thinking because of Solaire's obsession with the sun,
That he
maybe
was
he like
the
gave up
son.
his god powers to go try to find his own son, and he
Oh,
became a chosen undead like you. And I thought it was a good theory
it's a good
because
theory.
there's also stuff like he fights with sunlight, with lightning and everything. He still has
Right.
like bits of his power, and like all the would be statues of him in like in Orlando, I think are destroyed because they wanted to erase him.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
there's also the statue where you pray and you do the sunlight covenant stuff. It has a sword that looks a lot like his sword. So it was a
Right.
pretty good theory. Like it worked. And then but then Dark Souls 3 came out and now he's just this demigod who rides a fucking
Yeah, but
whatever.
he's Gwyn's son.
Yeah, you'd
Yeah.
expect it. It makes
Like,
more sense, but it
there's
was
still
just
like
like
lore there, but it's
yeah.
I guess if you're a Solaire fanboy and you got a
People
boner
were just
for
kind
him.
of hoping, I think. It was just a cool idea, and then that came out. I was like, oh, okay, never mind. But fucking great
Yeah.
boss fight, though. God damn.
Yeah.
Epic boss fight. And pretty tough, too. At least your first
Really
time.
hard.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's the hardest boss fight of the DLC or of the game,
Yeah.
including DLC. I'm trying to think. Sister Frieda is pretty hard, but I think it's doable. Nah, yeah, Nameless King I
I
think is the hardest fight,
I
100%.
didn't I didn't think I could do Sister Frida solo for the longest time, and then I committed to it last time through and got it done. It's just
I did it solo. Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
it's hard. It's just like
It's not terrible. You
she's
just
just
have to learn
on
it.
you. She's just on you.
Yeah. You
That
gotta learn how
first
to not
phase, and then she kind of
yeah.
like gets a little more passive as you go.
When you can learn to get the jump on her in that first phase to where she's not like sneaking up on you and like two-shotting you all the time when like cause she does like oh, it's a cool fight. Like she disappears and jumps away from you, and then you can kind of like listen in your headphones, like, where is she?
Yeah, like
Like, is
as
she up
the
to
snow
my
kind of like you feel you
Yeah.
hear like the breeze or whatever.
That's really cool. That's a really
Yeah.
cool fight.
Yeah.
Oh man, what's the hardest boss fight in Dark Souls 3 for me? Let me think.
It's got to be Nameless King. What else? Really? You think something was harder?
Nameless King was definitely really, really tough the first time. It's just
Did you play Dark Souls 3 the first time on stream?
the first time on stream? No. No, that was
Okay.
just like another playthrough.
Okay.
But I think once you get used to Nameless King, he's like once you know all of his attacks, he gives you some time. he definitely has kind of a rhythm to him. Like he isn't like, just attacking. He does this, pause, he does this, pause, this. And so I think once you get used to him, he's not, but definitely first time through, oh my God, yeah, very tough.
Yeah, I definitely summoned somebody for that one.
I think the most trouble I had was my first time through, at least, was Dark Eater Midir in the DLC.
Oh, fucking Midir. Oh God,
Yeah.
that fight sucks. That's a terrible fight. I actually totally forgot about that. That fight is just dragon fights. I think in Dark Souls are just bad.
I think again, the one in Dark Souls, the first Dark Souls DLC, we just said his name.
Calumet.
Calamite, yeah. That one's pretty good. I think that one, like, it's got consistent mechanics. It doesn't cheap hit you.
From the Poison DLC in Dark Souls 2, that dragon fight at the end, dumb.
Yeah, not the best.
Dumb.
I remember having, like, he does something to your durability, doesn't he? I remember, like, having weapons break or something in that fight.
Yeah. Dude, it took me forever.
Champion Gundyr. That's a good one, Koro.
I don't think Gundyr is that hard.
It's just fucking good. It's just a fucking good fight. Like, it may not be the hardest, but...
Dude, Midir sucks, Koro. Come on.
Midir I didn't mind so much this last time through, but I just feel like I had to spend so much time learning that fight because he's got so much health and he can, like, two-shot you. So I think I just got impatient with it, but... Yeah, I mean, it's decent once you know how to do it. That's a lot of Dark Souls, though. Just figuring out how to do it.
Right.
I mean, once you get it kind of in your muscle memory how to fight a boss, it's never the same.
Firelink in Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's called Firelink, right?
Yeah, it's Firelink Shrine. You prefer having, like, the more main hubs, because Dark Souls was the only one that didn't really have. I mean, you had Firelink Shrine there, and it was kind of your hub, but it wasn't like you didn't do everything.
It's not
there.
like Majula or Firelink in Dark Souls 3.
I love me some Majula.
And even the Hunter's Dream in Bloodborne. I do like Majula. I do like Majula a lot.
It's got nice music.
And I like the what's her face, the Emerald Herald, Seek Last. Oh, and you froze right when I said that. Hold on, I'll wait for you to catch up. Yeah, what was I gonna say? Yeah, Majula is really good. And Firelink from Dark Souls 1 is just kind of like lame. Like, it really just...
It's not really meant to be your hub. It's meant to just be this broken down, shitty area.
Right.
You kind of have to do things from. Like, it's where you go to the kiln of the first flame and all that, but...
Did you hear me say Seek Last?
Seek. No, I didn't.
that's
every fucking time.
When I said that, it froze. I was like, oh.
I think everyone who's played Dark Souls 2 knows exactly what you're talking about.
Last. Yeah. Emerald Herald.
Seek Last. Yeah. Majula just always felt like going home, like getting a nice peaceful break from the game.
And like you're saying, the music. That's something we actually haven't talked about too much. Is the music of Dark Souls and Bloodborne fucking great?
Oh, it's good, man.
But guess what? Sekiro's music.
Yeah. I mean, I think. Oh, bearer, seek lest. Yeah, because she calls you bearer of the curse.
Yeah, seek lest.
Yeah, Sekiro just. It was kind of at a disadvantage for me going in because the aesthetic didn't appeal to me as much.
Yeah, so Sekiro is the most recent Souls game to come out. Apparently,
Are we allowed to call it a Souls game? Or are we? Because people get up in arms about this.
Game of the year.
Game of the year, Sekiro, 2019. Much to Gooch's disappointment.
Oh God!
Didn't surprise me though. I mean, I knew it was going to be.
What? Are you kidding?
Well,
compared to RE2.
RE2 remake was good, but it was still like a reimagining of an older game.
Right, but like Sekiro isn't that good.
Not to me, but it was to a lot of people. People really loved it.
Anyway, Sekiro, I just think lacks in like so many departments. It's a good game. It's all right. It's okay. It's a nice Souls game. It's not Bloodborne. It's not Dark Souls 3.
I mean, good things about it. I think the posture system is a neat innovation. The extra focus on sword play and combat and wearing down your opponent. It's got even more than Bloodborne, an increased focus on being aggressive. Let's see. It's got more fluid movement. It's nice to move around in. You can jump. You can grapple around. It's got an added verticality to it that Dark Souls doesn't. You may like that or not, though. I mean,
I don't.
The And the stealth is okay.
I think verticality in games can sometimes be used as a gimmick, or eventually it becomes gimmicky. It's there and it's cool, but like, oh, like Jesus Christ, they're really using this verticality thing as like a weird, like it becomes just like not a joke, but like just a gimmick. Like I don't know other way to say it.
I definitely never felt like I needed more of it in Dark Souls or Bloodborne.
Right. Like I liked saying, on the same level, going up steps, going down steps. Like I'm fine.
It's nice. I mean, I had fun for a while. Like probably the best times I had in Sekiro were just like ninja yourself up to a good high point, look around at what's going on, and then figure out, okay, how do I dispatch these enemies in the cleanest way I can.
And I think its boss fights are good. I think some are like overly really difficult and some are just really easy.
Yeah, it does have some good ones though. Like I watched Coral the other night do the one where he charges out and my name is Gyobu, like whatever.
Oniwa!
Gyobu Oniwa! Yeah. That's if you're playing with the English dub, which I got yelled at for on stream.
Dude, no, I use the English dub too.
But
fuck that.
I've retained the story a lot better if I know what they're saying in addition to the subtitles.
Exactly.
Like,
that's my fucking point. And
Yeah.
when people are like, "Oh, I gotta play in Japanese," I'm be like, "Well, I want to like know what's going on and not like I can't read those subtitles mid fight."
I'm trying to fucking knock this dude down. I can't stop and see what's.
Yeah, like I think Oniwa is a cool fight. It's not too difficult. I think it really is like, oh, like you got firecrackers. Like here's the tutorial for firecrackers.
Koro didn't know there's English dub. Yep, they go to Japanese by default, but yeah, there's an English dub.
Oniwa.
The one where you're in that tunnel really high up, and the big knight comes at you.
Oh, Sir Robert.
Sir Robert.
Or no?
Robert?
Maybe that's
no.
not
Well,
his name.
Robert's his son. Robert's his.
Yeah. What's his
when
name?
you knock him down, he goes Roberto.
Yeah, Roberto.
That one's great, and I like that too because it's like essentially a Dark Souls character coming at you.
Right. Well,
Right, here's
like,
a big-ass knight.
it's like a Western, like person. Yeah, it's a cool fight, but like a lot, like very mini bossy. Like there are a lot of fights that are very mini bossy, like the centipede, like that you end up fighting a lot more. You just fucking parry the shit out of him and get his
or the
and the fight's over.
The headless or whatever. You gotta fight a lot of those dudes.
The headless are cool, but like you just need to look up like how to fight them. Like the game really doesn't tell you how to fight them, and like, oh, divine confetti and use one of the sugars and you go in and fuck them up.
Yeah. Well, another interesting boss that's kind of not very much like the rest of the game is the Guardian Ape. Did you get that far?
Yeah, I beat it.
Oh yeah, you beat Sekiro. I'm the one who didn't beat Sekiro.
Yeah, like, but, where did you get up till?
I don't remember exactly. I know that.
Did you fight?
There were.
No, I
don't care. I don't care if you. I don't care if you
fight Al.
It. Al, I don't think so.
Your dad.
Oh, I think I might have. I know I was getting close to the end game, but I didn't really get into like the weird. I know there's like a bunch of weird divine stuff that starts happening. I didn't get into.
You fight him, and then like that's kind of like where the end game starts, and you go up through fucking not Senpo Temple, Ashina Castle like 7 fucking times.
Oh, okay.
Like it keeps changing.
I don't think I got there. No, I definitely didn't see that. I didn't see Ashina Castle.
So and then I got the best ending, which is the. Hold on. It's like one of these confusing names. Yeah, I kind of forgot you didn't beat the game.
Koro says he's not listening to this part.
Yeah. So there's 4 endings, and I got the Dragon's Homecoming, which is like the most complicated one.
Okay.
And you fight Lord Ishin, but like a younger version of him. He's called the Sword Saint, and he's fucking hard. He is so hard.
I've heard that last fight
is
joke. Is insane.
It is. It took me so long. Like, I can't even like tell you how long it took me. I just throwing myself at that boss, and like I got like the last phase is just like he's so the way he like I feel like movement in that game really helps bosses kill you. Because they're so like sometimes they do like these weird things and you're like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah. They really don't want you like dodging and running out of the way unless it's really necessary.
Yeah.
Like, after playing so much Souls, it can feel constricting. Like I just want to move. I just want to position, because Bloodborne especially is really about positioning. It's about, because they don't give you as many, like you can parry, but you can't block and all that. So it's all about moving yourself into the right spot to hit, not get hit, you know. But then Sekiro, it's just send that shit back to him for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
L1.
Yeah.
Lots of L1.
Yeah. And it's just like, I still don't think it's a good game. No, it's not Dark Souls 3 and it's not Bloodborne for me. It doesn't give me those feelings and that
same.
I don't know, your feelings. Yeah, I guess that's
I wanted so bad to like it, and you know it. I tried to stream it 2 different times and
killed the stream.
It's like you could just see me like the second time through. Here, let me say it's safe for Koro. No more spoilers.
Yeah, go for it.
No more spoiler chat.
Sorry, Koro.
He's good. He's all right. But that's empty. What was I gonna say?
You were talking about 2 different times, like streaming it.
Oh yeah, like the second time through, I started to get it a little bit better. You know, the first time it kind of just beat me. Like I was like, I don't get this game, and it's frustrating and whatever. But the second time, I understood it, but I never.
Grab cut out again. Hold on, I'm waiting for him to catch up. There we go. You back?
Way back, yeah.
Yeah.
I can hear you the whole time, but
so the last thing I heard you say was you're saying you were never, and I.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
I got decent at Sekiro the second time around. I got to where I was getting through it, but I never felt that like satisfaction of progressing like I did in Souls. Like I never felt like I was really getting good. I never felt like it was just like, well, I guess I smashed through that. I guess I won. So.
Yeah, I feel like I was kind of hitting that point too, where I felt like I was like kind of bad. And then, but like I was just smashing through it. That's a good way to put it. Like some of those fights, like you just got through.
Yeah. And you just had to do them.
Did you fight the once you get through, you get Cora might want to mute the mic, or turn this down real quick. The Guardian Serpent, you fought that, right?
Yes, I believe so.
It's in a tree, and you're in the clouds.
Actually, I don't think so. That doesn't sound familiar.
You got to that area.
I got to it, but I didn't.
Let me look at the areas. I forget the name of the place. It's like the Fountainhead Palace. You got to the Corrupted Monk.
Okay, yeah. I got to it, but I think I quit right around there. I don't think I got very far into it.
Yeah. So there are a lot of fights that are like set pieces, and like that fight's like kind of easy. I won't go into it, but yeah, like they're just like, it's just like you kind of just smash through some of them. It's really, really it. Like and there's no other way to say it. And sometimes like you don't have to use your prosthetics. I like the prosthetic tools, but like I found myself not using a ton of them.
Yeah, they just didn't feel like game changers to me.
Yeah, I think like the firecrackers were something you used a lot. The shurikens, and then there was
the shield breaker. That was important. I used that one a lot.
And then there's like the poison. I used it like once.
Yeah.
The umbrella I used like in one fight because you need it for one fight. Yeah. Like I
mostly just wanted to go fight things with my sword.
Right. I felt like the prosthetics like didn't supplement the combat well.
Yeah, and I think the saddest thing about Sekiro, I mean, with Bloodborne we got a little more streamlining, but they made up for it with great story and a good weapons and a good play style that you were kind of forced into slightly. But Sekiro's not even Sekiro. I don't think you can really even call that an RPG. I mean, maybe a little bit.
It's more like a Batman game. Like you're
action
leveling
game
up your equipment and you're getting like some upgrades, but like you're still like using the same stuff throughout the whole game.
Yeah. It's like a action adventure game with RPG elements, kind of. But yeah, and I think that kills a lot of like replayability for me. If I don't enjoy the actual gameplay that much, to go back and just play it again, then you haven't given me a reason to make a new character. I don't get to change anything. I don't get to do anything very differently. I mean, maybe I can upgrade a different prosthetic tool or something, but that's about it.
Right.
Or maybe get different skills, but you're probably going to want to go for the best ones regardless. And then there's also no multiplayer. You don't even get the option.
Right.
It's just a single player game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like they've gradually sucked certain things out of the series in favor of, or maybe not in favor, and maybe not in the series, but at least in how they've been making their third person action games from Soft. And then I guess they want to focus more on gameplay, on fast paced, action gameplay.
And I'm curious where they're gonna go with Elden Rings.
Everything Elden Ring, just singular.
Wing, yeah.
Everything I've heard suggests good things. Like, I think they're going back to character builds and, build diversity, more RPG stuff. I hear it's open world. And I think it's mostly based on, like, from what I understand, you ride
Norse
your horse
mythology?
around. Yeah, Norse, like, I think something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know much.
remember hearing about that. Yeah.
I think basically you
Vanya
ride your
talked
horse.
about it a lot.
You ride your horse around a big open world, and I think you go to different towns or keeps or castles or something, and you conquer them. Essentially, that's the base. That's what I've heard, but they haven't really said much.
I never heard about the keep stuff. I never heard about the open world. Maybe I did, but not the horse.
I mean, that sounds like a potentially a good idea. I like them getting back to fantasy.
I do too.
Kind of more high fantasy stuff. I just have always liked that stuff. The aesthetic.
Yeah, high fantasy is my shit. I think there's been a lot of dark fantasy like Game of Thrones. But I think like Witcher, the Netflix series, and Witcher, the games, kind of like do high fantasy well, sort of like Lord of the Rings. Fantasy is not something we have a lot of in general. So I like seeing fantasy.
It's just cool. It just feels very video gamey to me.
I'm definitely excited for Elden Ring. It's definitely not going to be this year. I think it's definitely going to be a next gen game at this point. I think it'd be stupid for them to release it like not next gen. There
was a rumor that it was coming June of this year, but that was based on like something like some Target leak or something.
I was just like, get real.
You'd think they would have said a lot more about it. If it was coming in June.
Oh yeah, they would have. I mean, like tons of games are getting delayed. Fucking Final Fantasy, like every game. Cyberpunk, Final Fantasy 7. Is it Resident Evil 3? No. What was the other one?
I think it's still early April.
Oh, Avengers, Cyberpunk, Final Fantasy 7.
That's right.
Those three got huge delays.
Which is good, as long as there's not a sign of something seriously wrong.
Right, but it's just like if they announced the date for Elden Ring randomly, like I'd be like, we haven't seen shit, so that tells me your game's not ready. Because that was like when they released Avengers at E3, and I'm just like, May?
Yeah.
You're coming out in a year? I barely saw gameplay in that trailer. I was like, I don't even know what this game is. And I feel like most of like the gaming community is still really confused about what that game is. It's supposed to be like a Destiny-like game, but it's like, it's Avengers.
Yeah, that's
like odd. What? Like, what does that even? How does it like? It's I'm excited for it in the sense of it's Marvel, but like I'm not excited because like I don't think the game genre is what I like.
Yeah, the shoot 'em up MMO grind fest kind of thing, if that's what it ends up being.
Yeah. So I'm definitely excited for Elden Ring. I'm just not thinking about it because there's nothing to think about.
Yeah, it's gonna be a ways off, and like you'd think by now that I would learn from hype, to not. I like to be excited for things, sure, but wait until you know what.
I like to be excited.
Oh yeah, wait till you like know what a game is gonna be. Like don't, and I guess just temper expectations. Don't go into Elden Ring just like, all right, back to Dark Souls, back to Prima From Software. This is going to be the best game.
I would say the same thing, even though I've done the opposite, like Death Stranding first trailer. I was like, oh, let's go! Like, we know nothing about this game, but it's going to be fucking awesome. Because it's Kojima stuff. But, yeah, I think we need to, I think we're going to get, like, I hope we get another Bloodborne. Like another like they're doing like cool stuff, but maybe they're doing more Dark Souls-y things with this one. I don't know. Like we're done with Dark Souls. We're never gonna get another Dark Souls. It seems
probably for the best.
Yeah, I think you're right. In a way, I would love another Dark Souls 3 kind of game, but
they're all distinct. It's a good complete series. It spawned like so many copies. We could talk about those
Right.
too. I mean,
Well,
Souls-likes has become a huge thing.
That's what I was gonna like kind of end on, is like going back to the zeitgeist of Dark Souls. Like it's funny, we got a lot of games like Lords of the Fallen, which is a Souls-like game, which didn't do too well.
Koro played that when it looked really fucking frustrating.
Yeah,
really looked like not
Jedi
fun.
Fallen Order, Neo, like all the Souls-like games seem to just be meh. I really think like they try to do the genre, but like it doesn't work out. But then you have games like Hollow Knight, which you've played, which is you can speak to that.
Yeah. It's like maybe taking concepts from Dark Souls is good, but a lot of good gameplay concepts in Dark Souls are pretty old. Like it's a lot like Castlevania. It's kind of like a 3D Castlevania game. You upgrade. It's tough. You double back for exploration. I think Hollow Knight draws a lot from that too. But yeah, like with the checkpoints, the checkpoint system is a lot like Dark Souls with the benches as opposed to bonfires. I feel like tons of games have Dark Souls style checkpoints now. Because Fallen Order was the same way. Fallen Order was the same way with
a Souls game. That's
yeah,
different.
yeah. We're thinking more about actual Souls likes. I guess it does kind of stay more to that sort of subgenre, but yeah, I kind of want to try Neo, but apart from that,
Nah, I'm not interested.
I'm having a tough time getting interested to play that. I bought it on a PlayStation sale. It's just sitting there. There's a sequel coming this year.
Yeah, there is. But I've heard very meh things about Neo. I've never heard anything like, "Oh, you gotta play Neo." It's like the next best thing. Like nobody's ever said that ever.
Dark Souls is just so clean.
Right.
Like
and I don't think it's a bad thing that games are trying to, I don't want to say copy, but emulate what has succeeded. But I just think like maybe we don't need to do that with Dark Souls all the time.
They just don't quite get, like, there's just a certain polish that the Souls series has had even from the beginning. Like it's really struck me playing the first Dark Souls, even though it's heavier and not quite as polished as the other ones. Like the game has a good difficulty, even though it's tough. It's totally fair. You don't get like cheesed in shitty ways. I mean, everything is overcomable. Mistakes are usually your fault, pretty much. Like sometimes you get in a bad situation or whatever, but you can always overcome it. It always feels very it's just tight. Like playing Fallen Order, it had some good unique things that it did, but it just didn't have that FromSoft tightness to it.
And here's the thing. This is what I love to say about Fallen Order. I think this is what like solidifies why I don't like it. You wouldn't play it if it wasn't a Star Wars game.
No, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have.
Nope, you wouldn't have.
It's a shame too, because I remember talking with friends over the years how cool it would be to have like a sci-fi Souls, like a space Souls game or a futuristic kind of Souls, and Star Wars is a perfect environment to do that in. But it's just not the same.
It doesn't hit the mark. Yeah, I feel like it tries to be like a jack of all genres. Like it tries to be a lot of different things, and it doesn't really succeed in any of them. It's a master of none.
And it still tries to, like, it does lots of really typical AAA stuff, like the big intense cutscenes and long,
right. And it's telling it, a normal narrative like Sekiro is. And I don't think it really works in that genre. I think the environmental storytelling and the contextualized storytelling is what works in that genre.
Yeah,
like
it feels floaty. It doesn't feel like quite as responsive, quite as tight.
It's not tight at all.
Yeah,
not at all. Koro can probably tell us in chat. Like I'm not sure how Lords of the Fallen does its story. You can speak to Hollow Knight, and I'm not sure about Neo either.
Yeah, Hollow Knight's really good. It's a little bit more direct than Dark Souls, but no, you still have to really work your way through that world and figure things out. That's probably where the comparisons come from mostly, I think. Like tough but tight and fair combat. Checkpoint system, much like Dark Souls with the benches, and then the way they tell the story to you. Like I didn't really know a whole lot of what was going on with Hollow Knight most of the way through it, but
really?
That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool though, because I knew there was something more there. It was telling me, but you've got to piece it together bit by bit. Did you actually finish that game, Koro? I thought you tapped out because there was one really frustrating boss fight I watched you do. About halfway, I stopped paying attention to anything, treated it like a speed run, so I could say I completed it. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And
feel
like
you.
Blasphemous looks kind of cool, even though it's not like a Souls game, but like it has that Soulsy vibe. Like I
It just
love how
look.
like everything we're comparing it to Dark Souls, like
I
even
know.
though it might
Yeah.
have nothing to do with it.
It just looks good. It just looks. It just looks nice.
Cool.
I don't-
Yeah, like I
Yeah, it
like the
looks
art
cool.
style. Yeah, I'd love to see you play that on stream. I know it's on the list of
It's on
games.
the list. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to play Salt and Sanctuary, but I just think that game looks like shit.
I've seen it, and yeah, I don't think it looks
It's
too
just like
good.
the art style is not quite there. It doesn't look. It just doesn't look very nice. I guess I don't know. It's hard to explain, but Blasphemous has the appearance at least of being a good game.
So I think in conclusion, what we can say is like Dark Souls like really defined not the decade, in a way the decade, but like we really like a lot came from Dark Souls. Whether it's good or bad, it really innovated this genre that like didn't really exist and kind of created this conversation around difficulty and storytelling that really just wasn't there before. And I think
Yeah.
that's why it's like it's definitely Dark Souls 1 is definitely a game of the decade. 110%.
Oh, yeah.
It like it's done so
Definitely.
much for this industry that it's hard to ignore considering we
100%.
compare it to everything.
They really legitimized just. I think they took things that were never quite that satisfying before, like 3D combat, and they did a lot to legitimize it. I think, while still, and then just the difficulty was a breath of fresh air too. Because I feel like for a while there, single player games you just expected to smash your way through. Like maybe if you got to the hardest difficulty or something and dealt with a bunch of cheap bullshit, like maybe then you'd have a problem. But I feel like for several years, all the difficulty in gaming came from playing against other people. Because you could get through pretty much any game on your own, but then you go online and get your ass kicked. And it's like, okay, I'm not that good at video games, but Dark Souls gave you a challenge that was legit and hard to overcome even by yourself. Like those first days where you're like a baby with the controller and you don't know it very well yet. And
And you're
you get your
also
ass-
learning with the rest of the community.
Oh yeah. I'm
Yeah,
sad
like-
that I missed that. I'm sad that I missed the
Right,
early days of Dark
I am
Souls.
too. One thing that I kind of liked going that I was playing like after the games came out, I was using Vati Vidya's series as like a companion, or his videos as like a companion to my playthrough. So like I was learning about the areas as I was going through, and I was like, he does his like things you missed, and I was like, oh yeah, I missed that. I'm gonna go back and get it. And it kind of like added this like next level for like my playthrough, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I've never really done that with like any kind of game where I was like watching a like somebody's YouTube videos as I was going through, not because I need a walkthrough, but like as like supplementary
Yeah.
content to it.
Help you know what you're coming across and what it means, and
Right.
putting the whole
Right.
picture together for you. Yeah, it's cool.
Well,
I definitely emphasized more in my later playthroughs. I remember when I streamed it, I was really, really careful to like read everything. Let's be.
oh yeah,
Let's
yeah.
be. I may not be like a good lore guy, but let's read through all of this and see what we think. It's just
Right.
it's part of the fun.
I think that is a good place to wrap it up. Before I do my outro, Greg, where can they find you, watch you?
Well, they can find me at twitch.tv/Grebard or Grebard or Grebard, or I love hearing all the different ways people try to pronounce this weird little word.
I say Grebard. Grebard.
Yeah, that's how I
Grebard.
say it.
Yeah.
Grebard. Yeah.
I mean, I've heard you say it too. So.
But Koro has always called me Grebard, and I don't want him to stop because it sounds so silky with his deep British voice. So that's fine with me.
And then
That's
his, and then his, you can follow him on Twitter at Grebard Greg,
Grebard
which
Greg.
has been on the
That's
screen
it.
this whole time, which I'm sure you've noticed if you're watching on YouTube.
We're playing Hellblade tonight, which Koro
are we?
recommended. Yeah, he's recommended that game for like a year. I finally pulled the trigger. I found it for $10.
I bought it on Xbox. Now that Hellblade 2 is like, I would have got it on PlayStation, but Hellblade 2 is now like the next gen Xbox Series X game, and I'm like switching over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have it.
should
I
be
just
good.
haven't played it. So I'll tune in. I'll be sure to give you the host, and that should be fun. That game shouldn't probably take you that long. I think it's pretty short.
I think we'll do it this weekend, probably. Maybe finish it off tomorrow.
Yeah, I know it's not a long game for a fact. Yeah.
What's up, Penzum and Franklin? You just missed us. We talked
Yeah.
about Souls for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, we did. You missed it all. He's playing
That's
Neo.
okay.
We talked about Neo.
It'll be on the VOD, man,
Yeah.
and
So-
probably on Spotify and stuff.
Yes, I'm gonna go over that right now.
Sweet.
God, this dude, like as soon as I bring up Google Docs, so bright, bright. So I want to thank everyone for watching live on twitch.tv/Delco Nerd Network. You can find us on YouTube as well as most podcast services. Just search Delco Nerd Network. If you can drop us a review, I'm pretty sure iTunes is the only podcast service with a review, but if your podcast service has a review function, let us know what you think. Give us your 5 stars. Don't give us 1 star though. Like if you don't like us, just give us the 5 star and tell us why you don't.
Yeah, don't be a dick, man.
Yeah. So you can find us at Delcar Nerds on Twitter and Instagram, as well as you can find all this info at www.delconerdnetwork.com. For Greg, I've been Gooch. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay nerdy, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.